Hello, this is Celine, and I'm very happy to be here to give a very short panel discussion. I would like to introduce you to Yura Hong, who's the KR BA student, and Michelle and Nora, also an MA student. So they're going to show their projects that's being exhibited at the exhibition floor. And before that, I'm going to explain a little bit about what speculative design is and what my aim and intention was while teaching this course. So actually, this was my first semester teaching at the K-Arts this year. And I was very excited to teach about this speculative design term for the first time at a university as a program. And what speculative design is, it's more of what could possibly happen in the far future based on of the social problem that we are facing every day. And we always speculate about like utopian scenario or dystopian scenario. And we try to like exaggerate about this social problems that's happening today by collaborating with diverse experts. So to do that, we cannot skip this part of FutureCon. The FutureCon is divided into 4 different sessions of the futures. And the first future is called probable future. The probable future is more like of what you can probably imagine of what could possibly happen within like 2-3 years from today. So, for example, what's going to happen within 3 years in the marketplace because of the overused of the plastic? You could easily think about the marketplace that are not using as much of the plastics or anything that's unsustainable. And the next future that we talk about is the plausible future. And the plausible future is more of the future where the regular people cannot really imagine of. It's more of the future where the experts can think of. So for example, like the bankers would think about the future scenario in a very complete different way compared to politicians or the other people that are in the other fields, because they would think about the future based on of their knowledge and the history of their backgrounds. And the next future is possible future. And the possible future is more of the future that is very far as a time period. That when you think about it, it's more of what if in the future we have to leave the planet and then go to live in another place in the space, and where would we live in there, and what kind of society will we have, and type of thing. So those kind of future happens in the possible future. And the latest future that I can talk about is the preferable future. That's the future where most of the speculative designers think of. And this is the future that overlaps the previous 3 futures that I mentioned previously. And the future is where we imagine of this utopian or dystopian society based on of collaboration or reading diverse dissertations or books of different backgrounds to find out about the social problems that we are facing every day. And we always imagine about what could possibly happen, but what we don't imagine about what would happen. So this is more of the educational design. It's less of the prediction, less of the forecasting. We are less interested in what's going to really happen in the future, but we are more interested in to make the audiences to think of the social problem in a different sense by watching or by reading or by seeing our work. So it's more like, it's very mixed of the art and design fields. So we don't really call this as art, but it's like a stretched version of design, I would say. And we have this term called counterfactual. And this counterfactual area, it's more like we counterfact, like we twist the actual happening from the past and then imagine what could possibly happen if the history have changed in the past. So I'm the very last student from design interaction course where it was run by Don and Robbie, who's the pioneer of speculative design. Like while my master degree, I've learned so much about how to do the scenario building and come up with a very unique idea and design methodologies with the research and the scenario and etc. So it was like one of my biggest chances to learn from them. And based on of the lessons that I learned, I've been practicing a lot afterwards. And I wanted to teach this term to a lot of designers in Korea. And so yeah, that's what we have done over this semester. Throughout the course, throughout this particular semester, I really wanted to help the designers to really think out of the box by presenting a lot of different designers and artists from the history. So there are a lot of designers that I'm very interested in, and there are particular season and generations where there were a lot of architects who were inspiring. So just like Hans Hollein, who has done this project, just framing psychological appeal, and then say that it was part of architecture. And he said that everything is architecture. And I thought that was very fascinating because once you take that pill, you don't know where you are. You don't know if you're inside or outside of the architecture. So that becomes another shape of architecture. So I thought that was very interesting. And I thought that could be another part where designers could push their work towards. And also, we cannot escape Buckminster Fuller, of course. Buckminster Fuller, who he came up with tons of different great ideas. And one of them was to cover up the New York City with this very thin materials that he came up with. And he was like imagining about the society where they could cut down those heat loss, pollution issues, and etc. So all those kind of interesting ideas that architectures were thinking of were very intriguing to me, and I wanted that to be inspiring for my students. And Walter Pichler, of course, he also was one of the very interesting form of architect from the history, and he has done a lot of the different type of designs like this, where he has come up with this interesting helmet from 1967, where he was covering his head with this helmet and then the little monitor of his living room. And he was saying that perhaps this could be the futuristic living room. Also, like having the TV helmet to shape the idea of architecture in a different way. Or Husfeld Co., of course, they have come up with tons of really interesting architecture designs and etc. back then. And they're still running architecture company in Europe. And they came up with diverse shapes of plastics. They came up like they used this plastic and said that like if you cover up a space, a zone with plastic, then that could be another shape of architecture. Or like if you or inside of this bubble, plastic bubble, then that becomes like another shape of architecture. So I thought that was like all those things were very interesting. And they also did this interesting performance where they have fabric, where they baked all different types of cakes and then built a society of out of the shape, out of the cake, by making the cake into the shape of buildings. So I thought it was very intriguing, like how they were performing and trying to deliver messages of society and like social problems. And Krzysztof Badysyko, he's also one of the most interesting figure. Of course, he also did a lot of interesting designs back in the 1980s or 1990s. And he has done this project where he has collaborated with homeless people, and then he tried to find out like a way to come up with an idea of where they could have like a communication area, or like where they can have like an actual communication with the people that pass it, like the people that live in the society, the citizens, by building something very unique as a shape and as a function. So this one is like the one that that he built after this. And this one was so much more progressed that it could communicate with one another once you have this monocle and vehicle. And it's a vehicle shape, but then you can sleep in it, and then you can cook in it, and you can do basically everything. And because it looks very unique, that it urged people to want to have communication with the homeless, where people don't regularly have those kind of communication with homeless. So all those like way of breaking the perceptions of via making a very interesting figures of design. I thought that was like a new way that we could incorporate into the design fields that we are having today. And so for the projects of our program, we came up, the first project I came up with was the counterfactual project. As I have introduced the counterfactual society in the very beginning of the talk, I thought that it could be a very good kickoff of a course to think about like historical scenario into a very unique way, so that I urged the designers to think about the scenario of the 1962's Seattle World's Fair and what could possibly happen in those time if we think about if we change a little bit of something from that actual event in the history, because we all know about what happened after 1962, right? We are living in 2025 already. That I was thinking that if you already are living in the future, then it's always easy for you to go back to the history and think about the very unique scenario. And I thought that could be a great chance for students to imagine or come up with a very interesting scenario. And they actually came up very fascinating ideas. So they had to do researches about what actually happened in this time period. So if they wanted to deliver like the social problems that happened during that period, like the political issue or economical problems, or they could actually handle those kind of problems that based on of what actually happened in that time. So if I explain about what Doha has done, she has actually found out that that was the year where John F. Kennedy has passed away. He was assassinated?
He was actually assassinated in 63, but as I researched, I actually found some connections between Cubans and also communism and also John F. Kennedy and also like Marilyn Monroe. So I made a scenario about what if he was actually killed in the World Seattle Fair.
So she had like done really fascinating newspaper design where it looks real. It looks like the existing newspaper articles, but then it's completely fake. So that actually could really help audiences to think about what's real and fake. They get like all kind of confused between that area, and then that's the power of speculative design, where you could really confuse people if that's real or not, and then they could think about that actually brings the audiences to grow their imagination. And then the next project I came up with was synthetic biology project. And if I explain a little bit about synthetic biology, this term is not so hard and difficult. So I hope that you will all understand. This is like one of the most popular synthetic biology project from our course. She also studied at the RCA Design Interactions program. And Daisy Ginsburg, she came up with this idea of collaborating with this scientist. She actually collaborated with this experts at the Cambridge. And those experts were back then researching about how to coloring bacteria. So she came up with an idea of that. What if you go to a marketplace and then get a little yogurt, and then once you drink it, and if your organ is not in a good condition, for example, if you're having problem in your instinct, then it colors in purple. And if you have like any other issue in your body, it colors into another color. So this is actually the design of the poop. So it's a little bit of disgusting. It could be a disgusting idea, but then it's very fascinating. It's something that you cannot forget about once you see it. Or this is Agi Haynes project research, but once you go to like Africa, there are a lot of different cultures that's very unique, that they shape their children or just newborn children into a very unique way, because their way of thinking of beauty is very it's in a very unique way, that they want their children to be still like considered as beautiful person, that they give like a very scary like tattoo, or like all the scars on their faces, or they shape their heads in a unique, bizarre ways, to be considered as beautiful person in the future. So that but then she was thinking that this idea is very ethically problematic, that she came up with an idea of like, what if in the future people would give certain type of plastic surgery for their children to get to survive from like all the climate changes or any of the social problems that's happening today. So, these were just a few of the synthetic biology design projects that I wanted to show you today, and I will quickly go to like show you the workshop that we had with the biologists, and I thought that this would really help for the students to really get out of just their computer and really practice in a actual way to think about their design in a very different way. So I hope that helped. And so I have decided to curate this exhibition with just 3 of the students, because their work were actually really fascinating to me. So I am going to like really briefly introduce you some of the design projects that are exhibiting downstairs, and they're going to explain their projects one by one, and they're going to show you the process of the research and everything. So this is the Don and Rabi's project, and this is the project that was done by the pioneer of speculative design, as I mentioned previously. And this is the idea of like, what if they, in the future, we get overpopulated, that we don't get enough of the food, then what are we going to eat? And they came up with this, they imagined of this society where people have to go out and have to have this device that functions as the new device of digestion. So it digests like the fish or bugs or birds or anything that has to survive in the nature by digesting this. Yeah, like just the natural things. So like things that like human being are, we are like made with the perfect digestive system, but then why would we actually have to like bring all those like heavy devices in the outside? That's a little critical. So they wanted to like come up with this idea to like raise the voice of the audiences and help them or make them to think about this future scenario and think about their current problem in a very unique way. And this is my project. I guess some of you already have seen it in the past. And this was a project that I've collaborated with a scientist in the history, and he was also studying biology, and we were thinking that it's shame that people don't really come up with ideas of using fungus for medicines. And he said that there are a lot of potentials within the fungus, but then people don't actually never really used it besides penicillin, because we get so much of negative information about them. So I thought it was really negative that I actually wanted to do a project where I could help people, human, with something that we think are so negative. So it's got a little bit of interesting of contrast. It'll be really intriguing to have like a fungus, vaccination, instead of using the needle for the vaccines. So you can grow it in your house anywhere, and then it smells really nice and it looks really nice. It tastes nice. So it's because this is the future scenario. I thought this whole thing could be like it could work. And this is Human Hyena, done by Ho Gong. He also started design interaction course back then when I was studying there, and he also thought that like we are wasting food a lot, and it's just too bad that like he came up with idea of what if we could digest the decomposed food like the hyena, as hyena could do it. So that he made these unique devices by collaborating with this Chinese scientist in the history. And then this is the Pink Chicken Project, which we also have exhibited at our gallery upstairs back in 2022. But now we only have the pictures and images of them. But this is an idea of where they were thinking that it would be really great if we could color genre of Anthropocene. There's nobody that can say that when Anthropocene actually started and how long it's going to last. So the way to color it, they were thinking of maybe we can color something that we eat the most. And they searched that we eat chicken. I don't have the number here, but like crazy amount every year, that if we change the genetic of the chicken, just the feather and the bones, then we would definitely get the lines it's like a fossil layer in the future. So now, so we are going to introduce 3 outputs that were done throughout the course. So we are going to start with Dora. She's going to come up and she's going to explain you of her project.
Hello, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank all for you coming here. I want to introduce myself. My name is Doğa, and I'm from Turkey, and now I am studying my master's in Korea National University of Arts. So I actually started with making a project about the Black Sea because I'm actually from the Black Sea region. And for my project, I'm going to introduce it in 3 phases, which is going to be like egg, ephira, and also medusa. So starting from the egg phase, I'm going to talk about this like background about why I choose the Black Sea region. So one day I was just like in the social media and I saw this one scientist and he was saying the Black Sea is going to explode. And I actually got so surprised because I'm just like, a whole sea, it's huge. How can it explode? And then I actually started to search about the Black Sea region. And then I found out the Black Sea wasn't actually a sea before, it was a lake, which means it was actually filled with fresh water. But then after the formation of the Istanbul Bosphorus, it started to get some salty water in it. But since their density is different, the salty water coming from the Marmara region, it actually started to sink to the bottom. But as you guys know, if you can really like mix these like substances that have like different densities. So as the time passed, actually the salty water, it started to die slowly. But we have a lot of creatures in the Black Sea region, and when they actually die, they are starting to sink to the bottom. But the thing is, there are no creatures that can break them down using the oxygen because it's not existing there. So as the result of these chemical reactions, we actually end up with a lot of hydrogen sulfide. But we are not using this hydrogen sulfide, right? So it's actually starting to getting more and more and more, and it's actually accumulating in the water. So as a result of this, it keeps coming up and up and up, and it's making this oxygen layer becoming just shallow as the time passes. And right now, we only have like 90 meters where these whole organisms can live. And it just keeps going up. So I thought it was a huge problem because this hydrogen sulfates, it's so natural, and someone needs to do something because a whole sea is going to explode. So I actually started to look for the creatures that were living in the Black Sea region that I can actually get some inspiration from. So these zooplanktons, they actually do some vertical migration, which I need in the Black Sea because we need to mix the water if we want to get this hydrogen sulfate to the top layer. So I was thinking about using the zooplanktons, and also jellyfishes, they can survive in the harsh conditions, and also it's so easy for them to reproduce. And also I realized there was some bacteria that are using this hydrogen sulfate, using the oxygen from the top layer and turning into the sulfate. But I was like, okay, if I can use this creature, then what about the accumulating sulfate as well? So I got in contact with a chemistry professor that actually lives in the Black Sea region, and I told him about my concerns, and we were working in these chemical reactions together. So we are using calcium and then sulfate, and then we are ending up with more solid thing. But I also wanted to turn it into a rock. So we are also using the water, and we are ending up with the gypsum, which is more like a rock and more solid form. So first of all, after this research, I want to say that all of these chemical reactions, I was searching for them, not to because to solve this whole problem or to say anything scientific about it, but in those whole chemical reactions, that is actually going to give me this whole like colors or liquid or solid forms that are actually going to influence my design. So after these chemical reactions, I started to make designs. So these are the first designs that I come up with. So there are a lot of forms, but some of these forms, they couldn't actually perform the things that I wanted to do. I was thinking about like, I feel like this is not going to be able to do vertical migration because this pearl is so heavy. Then like, what about I actually give them some kind of like jellyfishy form? So this is the final design called like, it's called Telesinogenes sulphurellus, and it is chemosynthetic life form. So this is the whole life cycle of this Telesinogenes sulphurellus, and it actually starts with an egg, and then as it grows into this fully grown medusa. And this pearl that you see there is actually what was the hydrogen sulfate at the first time, but as this creature go through all of these chemical reactions, it also starts changing this hydrogen sulfide, and then we have this pearl right there. But at the first time, I said that the Black Sea is going to explode, so I wanted to use this metaphor in my design as well. So as this jellyfish grows, the pearl grows, and then it explodes, this life form. I wanted to make a referring to the Black Sea is going to explode. And also, I wanted to control this whole population in the sea as well. So this is the end design. And also, I made this video.
Karadeniz ölmek üzere.
You can see the video. It also has an audio in Turkish as well. So if you are interested, I would also kindly ask
Karadeniz'in
you
katmanlı
to
derinliklerinde yaşam ile ölüm arasına sıkışmış bir organizma doğar. Üstte oksijenli suların hafifliği, altta hidrojen sülfürün ağır karanlığı arasında süzülürken yalnızca hayatta kalmakla yetinmez. Zehri yaşamı taşıyan bir elçiye dönüşür. Yumurtadan çıkan bu canlı her evresinde yeniden şekillenir. Larva olur, polip olur, efire olur, sonunda olgun bir deniz anusu olur. Ama amacı ne hayatta kalmak ne de doğayı kurtarmaktır. Onun sessiz varlığı derinlere gömülü bir krizi yüzeye taşır. Yapının içindeki çürümeyi görünür kılar. Başlangıcı şiirsel bir doğuş, sonu ise sessiz ama sarsıcı bir patlamadır.
Yes, you can see the video on the monitor. Thank you for listening to me.
It's the turn of Yura.
Hello, my name is Yora, and honestly, as a native Korean speaker, it's really awkward to use English in the middle of the Seoul, actually, but I'll do my best. And please be aware that I'm not a native English speaker. But anyways, I'm really honored to have a presentation in her gallery in this Monday night, and thank you for spending time in here with like 4 of us. Okay, let's start. Today I'm going to talk about like how an everyday device called like a digital screen can influence us by making a surveillance and and like organize our senses, and sometimes like it can dismantle us and even like reorganize the future. So before starting, my major is not the design, and it can be really like theoretical than other projects that you will see, but I'll consider my major as my advantage, and like why not? Why not adding some of the theories to the design? So my major is cinema studies, so I want to start from the like media theorist or film theorist called Andre Bazin. He claimed that like a film is a window. So by watching a screen, we can open our sights inside the screen. So when we watch the screen, all the like the part of the screen will be erased, and we can just like focus on what is screened. And also like the screen is on the like the ichaewon, like the second dimension. Yeah. But while watching, we will get inside of the third dimension and experience what is happening on the screen. But on the other hand, as a screen, like a framework of the screen, like every screen has it's like a little frame, like a screen, square frame, and they will remind us of the physical part of the screen. For example, I'm watching the laptop right now, and I can like feel the edge of the screen. So yeah, besides the movie, everything like the screen can like I mean like every screen can be recognized as a both ways, as a frame and also as a window. So especially in digital era, we're living in digital era right now. The digital screen is like an interface of our meeting our sense and the information, and also it can be like flexibly. How can I say like flexibly articulate the time and the space. Yeah. And so yeah, the screen is like a both window and the framework that mediates and coordinates our visual awareness. So as Andre Bazin said, movies look into really through windows, but these windows are never transparent. And also the material device of the screen, which is called frame, that is like that reveals the essence of the screen, while the screen is screening the image. Am I doing okay? Like, sorry. And also, I want to introduce another theorist who is called Chris Berry, who's English. He coined the term called technofragility, which means like if there's like fragility in the screen, we can find a hope of breaking out of the surveillance and the dominance from the government or the corporate or like every other like big companies that want us to be surveillanced. So for example, we don't really expect that the airport's departure and arrival screen or the scoreboard of the baseball stadium would be broke down, right? We all imagine that it will last forever and ever, but it really requires a lot of efforts to maintain it. And it actually, like, by keeping it working properly, it really makes a surveillance of us while it is screening. So, for example, when the big screen really has an advertise on it, it really makes us believe that the product that they're advertising is really great and it is like attractive enough to buy. So, but when we're thinking about like, but if those kind of big screens on the in the city is broken, we can look for like a little hope of like escaping from the surveillance. So, for example, I put the M Plus Museum in Hong Kong, and in 2022, one of the art like video was screened on that huge screen, which was a wall, like a external wall of the museum, but it was broke down and the pixels were broken and they required like 10 months to make it up on it. But by watching those kind of like fragilities, like screen fragilities, we can look for some kind of like hope from not working, if you know. you know. So, so those kind of like technical vulnerability or techno fragility is really has a potential in it, but really we really don't feel it because those kind of like media facade or like big screens are working really well. And on the other hand, I want to go back to the film screen. So basically, like most of the films that is produced in these days are filmed not in the exact like real location, but filmed in front of the high resolution and huge screen, which is a set. So as an audience, we really think that, oh, they really filmed in the desert or in somewhere in the universe or whatnot. But actually, it's not. It's fake. But the film makes us be deceived just by those kind of high resolution screens. So they're really like deluding people. And it can be connected, it can be linked to the thing that the screen makes a surveillance to the people. So I made a statement to start the speculative design project based on those kind of research I've made. So what if the screen will be a device that simulates the whole ecosystem of us, our life, then the moment that screen is turned off or screen is broke down, will produce like a little like little, how can I say, little gap of like deconstructing the fake reality, and so that we can escape from it, from the surveillance. So like how I came up with those kind of statements was that like I was in my like the library or near my house, and there was like a little big window in front of the bookshelf, and I was just looking at it because I was really struggling with coming up with this speculative design project. And I was like thinking about it, what can I do with a screen? And like suddenly I just came up with like, what if those kind of the windows are all screens, and the thing that I'm watching right now, which was like a little uphills, are all fake. Maybe the government is just like projecting fake nature for us to be happy and just pretend that we're in the nature, but it's fake. So that's how I started my project. And yeah, just like based on my statement, I worked with like 3 different worlds that can be projected in the future. So, for example, in the future, we can live in the house that has a window, but it's not a window, but a screen that produces or that generates the random landscapes through the screen. So this is like a landscape, like overall landscape, and as you can see, the layers of the land is not really even, and you can feel the pixels on it. But actually, I made it on purpose because, as you know, digital screen is made up of like RGB lights and also pixels, and there's a term called dead pixels when there's a physical breakdown on the surface of the screen. So there are limitations of the screen that cannot really generate the real landscape of nature, but just to mimic the nature. And it is presented by those kind of pixels, which looks really awkward. And by thinking of the climate change and all the things which is quite predictable, yeah, this is a landscape of like a snowy land that is filled up with a sand already. So this all the snows will melt, and on the bottom of the land there will be a sand, and on the top of it there will be like a little toppings of the snow only, because the snow will melt, or, and they're all gone. And the last one, it is the mountain that is on fire. And as you all know, there were a lot of like fires last year in LA, and there was in Gyeongbuk last year. So inspired by those kind of incidents, I was thinking of like, how about I could generate like a high altitude of the land, which indicates a mountain, and the top part of the layer will be filled with a fire, and the bottom layer will be like a little forest that's not yet deforested. So I made 3 videos with the program called Touch Designer, and you can see when you get out of this this space. And I also have a like 20 copy, limited edition. You guys are no, I was joking. I wrote an explanation about all the theoretical research that I've done in this project, and yeah, it'll be really helpful for you to understand why those kind of videos are necessary, and why it's considerable right now, and yeah, just to predict the future. So thank you for listening to me, and if I knew that I'm gonna present in English, I would have prepared for it like more enthusiastically. But I hope you guys all understood what I want to talk about in this project. And yeah, after this session, maybe you can see what kind of like landscapes are generated on while you're heading out to your home. So thank you for listening.
Hello, my name is Michelle. I'm from Indonesia, and my project name is called Flowering Organ. And when I start this project, I first think about food of the future. And when you think about the future, the thing that you cannot miss out is also to think critically about the present. So for the present, I see that there's this developing food trends about conscious consumption of food, precise and personalized food product, food delivery interaction and system, nature identical alternative food, and functional food trend. And from all of this, I would like to focus a little bit more on nature identical alternative food. And basically, it's scientists playing a role as farmers, and you might know things such as lab-grown meat. And when you think about alternative food, there are these questions that you can throw out, like, is it for the rich or for the poor? Is it possible to make it like more better, healthier than farmed one? And is it affecting modern people's attitude toward food in the future? And then I did a lot of research about speculative design in food. And in speculative design, food is often used to construct narratives related to the food culture. I'm sure if you've seen some dystopian movies and such, there will be some sort of themes surrounding food. And when in this kind of projects, like there are these recurring issues that they keep tackling, which is alternative proteins, consumption culture, consumption of new ingredients, and self-production. And depending on the projects of this speculative design, three effects are usually generated, which is to provoke an audience, to develop a reflection on the future through world building, and to support innovation. I would like to introduce to you guys to a few projects of food in speculative design. This is In Vitro Me. Basically, this project is talking about what if you can grow your own food from your own body. So with your own muscle tissue and from the blood that's supplied from your heart, and you can grow your own meat and you can eat them. So it gives out like this absurd thoughts, and I think that's like one of like amazing things about speculative design. There's also this project by Maiden Levy called New Fruit. This is more about the aesthetic of a fruit of the future, like what if you can 3D print food, and it talks about the relationship between humans, fruits, and like other things. And this is Food Fiction by Burton and Nira. It talks about our relationship with food and technology and social media and digital technology era. And there is Landless Food by Malu Leking. It's about what if you can use algae to eat as something like you usually eat in everyday food, like common food. There's Broco Pork, Mashed Chicken, and Beef by Leuli. I also like this project a lot because it looks interesting to me. It talks about what if you can grow muscle tissue out of the surface of a plant tissue. So it opens a lot of conversation about being a vegetarian, what kind of food is like meat and not meat. You know, it like blurs the line between those kind of thoughts. This is Namansi Industries by Dev Studio, talking about genetically modified animals. The Drop Store, it's talking about convenience stores in the future, how food will all be very portioned. Because there's no food in the future, there's no water. Water will be $150, and like burgers will be shape of a pill, the kind of project. There is also a project called Skinny as a Bird by Hebrock and Mainza. It's it discusses a lot about food waste and also about diet, and talking about what if you can get exactly the food that you need every single day, so nothing is wasted. And by a subscription program, you can actually do a dietary program. It's all speculative design projects, so nothing is real, by the way. And then after looking into all of these projects, I also did a deep dive into food consumption system. You know, there's production, processing, distribution, and consumption. And through this circle, I took out like some keywords that I want to take into my projects, such as water and space, like the ethicality of food system and food nutritional value, the ever-changing way of eating, how to reduce food waste, and the availability of food. Which brings me to one of my main topics of slaughterhouse blood waste. I don't know if any of you guys are vegetarian, but I personally love meat. And when you eat meat, there is blood being spilled, called slaughterhouse blood. And for 100 kilogram of body mass, cows are usually 200 kilograms. You get up to 3 to 5 liters of blood. In certain countries, 50% of the blood will be collected and 50% of the blood will be just thrown away. Some countries use the blood and some countries don't. It's a lot of data. I will skip into it. But slaughterhouse blood basically have a lot of nutritional quality. When you think about it, and according to research, the iron inside the blood can be digested so much easier than the iron you get from plants. So when you eat plants, you get iron, all those good stuff. When you consume blood, you get in such a more effective way to get those nutritions. And in addition, even currently, blood are being used as stabilizers, clarifiers, emulsifiers, milk additives. Basically, they have a lot of uses even currently in the present world. Slaughterhouse blood also have a lot of application, but I would like to focus on its application to help reducing the levels of malnutrition and anemia in people especially. And for application of the other application, you can see on the right side, is it on the right side? On the right side, I took 2 out of like a lot of uses of blood, but basically blood can be used as flour and also as additives to milk. You can add iron to milk enough like for children to consume for a day. And also, since blood is considered as food waste, it also gives this new value about using this waste product. It will be good for the environment for us to be able to actually did a more research and to utilize this blood. There's also this other use of slaughterhouse blood that I think is quite interesting, which is blood meal. Basically, you dry the blood into a powder and you use them as fertilizer. They're high in nitrogen, which is what plants need to grow. And I also did a little bit of research into hydroponics. It will make sense later. But hydroponics, I'm sure you've all heard about it. With little space, you can get more yields, less water, but a lot of money. But basically, with hydroponics, it's a very effective way of gardening. And they have a lot of benefits. And through here, I would like to introduce you a little bit about Indonesia. Indonesia is a big country. It's the 4th most populous country in the world. So we have 279 million people in Indonesia. And 87% of the population is Muslim. And on the bottom part, I quote the Quran here, which is the Bible for the Muslims. They say that the Muslims cannot eat slaughterhouse blood. Basically, it's haram for them. Personally, I'm not a Christian, so I'm not going to talk a lot about this. But what I'm trying to say is a lot of slaughterhouse blood is being wasted in Indonesia right now. Even though we don't eat a lot of pork, we eat a lot of chicken, we can eat a lot of cows, and we eat a lot of fish and other poultry. But in Indonesia, there's also a lot of malnourishment, especially in children. It's because of poverty and mostly because of low education. 1 in 5 children in Indonesia are stunted. Basically, they don't get the nutrients they need to grow. But 1 million of the children are actually obese. So what it's trying to say is in Indonesia, some people, they're not educated enough to understand what their children need. So that when they're trying to find a good and cheap food for their children, they just give them fast food. It's cheap, it's easy, and it's fast. And there's a lot of malnutrition going on there. And what these children need is actually micronutrients, such as vitamins, iron, calcium, iodine, and others. And I'm sure you guys know what I'm trying to get to right now. What if we can feed these children blood? Sorry. So I'm going to introduce you to my project called Flowering Organ. It's a lot of text, but basically I'm trying to imagine a far future, like in a future where food and water is of course scarce. And I'm trying to reimagine like another way, like something beyond agriculture. Like people's greed, you cannot satiate them. People keeps eating meat and blood keeps pouring out, but the poor, they still cannot get the nourishment they need. So this flowering organ is a speculative biotech initiative, which is proposing like this solution. What if you can genetically engineer a flower capable of converting slaughterhouse blood into milk, a familiar, palatable, and culturally accepted form of nourishment, and is also very critical for the growth of children. And through a re-engineered photosynthetic process, the flower metabolizes key blood nutrients such as iron, protein, calcium, and lipids, fats, into a sweet milky fluid secreted from its central pistil. So this milk is not only, nutritionally complete, but it also has the extra benefits of traditional plant-derived nutrition such as fiber, chlorophylls, and mineral. So in a way, it's a milk, but better. And that is what I'm trying to say here. So in another way, flowering organ is a plant that functions as an organ outside of the body, since it changes blood into something else. It invites like a rethinking of waste and also about cultural sensitivity. It opens up conversation. That's what I'm mostly trying to do through this project, and how it will benefit Indonesia. So as you know, Indonesia, we don't eat blood. So what if you can still use this blood as another form of nourishment? And by relying on this kind of waste for nutrition, it also have this added benefits of being very friendly to the environment. So it doesn't give worse impact to the earth. And this ability to convert slaughterhouse blood into milk, it's a very efficient way to combat nutritional deficiencies. Yes. And this floral transformation reframes waste into nourishment, allowing nutrients to be reintroduced into an acceptable and digestible form. But it also opens a conversation of what is like acceptable. Is it actually acceptable to use like this blood that is like culturally taboo to become like a resource for another form of nourishment, you know? So for the flower design, I did a lot of research into carnivorous plants because they eat animal instead of like water from the soil. And this is like one of the few flowers that I've researched. And this is some of the aesthetic references also that is AI generated. And this is the first prototype of the flower that I made. So when you see here, I made this with a fake flower and clay and paint. And you see on the bottom part, it's kind of flashy, it's kind of bloody, it's kind of, ugh, you know. While the flower part is something familiar, it's something beautiful, it's something you get when your feelings are great. So it have this contrast between beautiful and gory, which is what I'm trying to achieve aesthetically. This is the close-up of the shot. The milk is also made with clay, so it looks like it's dripping. But I also did the second prototype, like 4 sketches of the flower. If you see outside, this is the first sketches of those flowers, and also some generated images of my sketches. And this is like the parts, different parts of the flower. The parts of the flower actually have a real name. It's a real thing, like the real parts of a actual flower. So they have their own role, like the reproduction program, the digestive organ, and all those good stuff. This is the second flower, the third flower, the fourth flower. And here I'm trying to explain very simply about how this flower will absorb, like how it functions. Basically, through its roots, it absorbs the blood through osmosis. It's a science thing. And through osmosis, it filters out all the bad things and takes out all the nutrients such as iron and like calcium, all those good things. And then it goes up through capillary action to the middle of the stem. And in the stem, it will also be combined with the glucose you get from photosynthesis by the leaves, the sugar. And it will come out into the anther. The anther part, it's number 3, by the way. The anther part of the flower is usually where you get pollen. You know, the things that bee takes from the flowers. So in the anther, this white milky fluid is going to be secreted as droplets, and it will eventually gather and drip down to the middle of the flower, and it will pool and hopefully flows out of the flower. This is a fully rendered image of the flowers that I've mentioned. The first one, the second one, the third one. In this one, I tried to have this orchid. You guys know what orchid is, right? Orchid and the pitcher plant and the fourth flower. I also did like a physical representation of the flower. I made it with paper, wires, pipes, with pastel color, with acrylic paint, clay, and Photoshop. And in here, it's called organ berbunga, which is an Indonesian for flowering organ. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for listening. And if you guys have any questions, please do. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. If any one of you have any feedback or question,
So with the flower project, what is the end product which is going to be consumed by humans? Isn't the flower stem Or is it the pollen?
It's the flower petals. So you can consume the flower petals, and also when you munch on it, like this white milky thing will come out of it. That's how I imagine it. Yes, thank you for your question. 한국어로도 됩니다.
These were really fascinating projects. So thank you for sharing with us. Since we're on the topic of the flowers, I just wanted to say that breast milk is actually made from blood. So when the females get pregnant and we have babies, breast milk, the milk that
Oh,
babies
yeah,
drink,
yeah,
actually
yes, yes.
process blood. And so whatever the baby doesn't
Yes.
has turned black into blood. So it's not
Yes.
actually all that weird because it's a very natural thing that
Yes,
happens.
yes.
So I thought that was really interesting. And also just to have that contrast with like kind of, I guess, gory and then having something really beautiful and delicate was really fascinating.
Yeah. Actually, when I started this project, I wanted to make this autonomous organ like udder, called udder. And I wanted to make it like outside of the body. So that's where I started with this project. That's why the name is also called flowering organ, because I was inspired by the udder of a cow. Anyone else?
Can I ask a question to Doya? So you chose to use like an organism rather than technology to resolve your problem of the Black Sea. Have you taken into consideration the effect of like evolution? Because organisms will naturally evolve to be better versions of themselves. Do you see an output that reflects that? Or
Yeah. Can I get the question one more time?
did you purposely pick something that has the potential to change on its own?
Yeah, I know that the creature actually looks a lot of like jellyfish right now, but the reason why it looks a lot of like jellyfish because I love the 기능 of the jellyfish, the function, yeah. So it actually like survive in the hard condition and then it can actually like change among the time. So maybe I was actually thinking about maybe it can also adapt the environment that it belongs in.
I thought that was fascinating. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
저는 한국어로 하겠습니다. 저는 그 유라님한테 질문이 있는데요. 그 설명해 주실 때 큰 스크린에서 어떠한 오류 혹은 그러한 스크린의 죽음에서 어떠한 그러한 현실과 비현실의 경계를 설명을 해주셨는데 그 전시에 있어서는 되게 작은 스크린 3개로서 이렇게 전시가 되어 있잖아요. 그거를 이렇게 큰 화면에서 얻으신 영감을 저렇게 작은 스크린으로 표현해 주신 게 어떤 이유가 있는지도 조금 궁금했습니다.
먼저 기술적 제반 장치를 설명하지 않을 수가 없었는데요. 아무래도 이 공간이 1, 2층으로 되어 있지만 어떤 3개의 큰 스크린을 놓기에는 조금 공간적인 제약이 분명히 있었고 그리고 뭔가 운용할 수 있었던 그런 화면들 중에 제가 여러 개를 그러니까 어떤 사이즈를 동일하게 쓸 수 있었던 스크린이 저런 화면이었어요. 그런데 그러니까 단순히 큰 스크린만이 어떤 그 고장에서의 통제 그러니까 큰 스크린이 고장 났을 때만 어떤 그런 통제로부터의 틈을 발견할 수 있다라는 어떤 명제도 맞지만 그러니까 스크린 자체가 자연 환경을 라이브 스트리밍하는 그런 뭔가 눈속임의 장치라고 생각했을 때에 전시의 형태가 굳이 대형 스크린일 필요는 또 없지 않을까라는 생각을 하게 되었습니다. 답변이 되었을까요? 감사합니다.
그리고 추가적으로 이제 그 저희가 자연을 선택했던 이유를 설명을 해주시면 좋을 것 같아요. 저희가 이제 그런 얘기를 so back in the like research process, we were talking about like what's gonna be the term of nature, or like what's gonna be the term of like um, something that looks natural in the future when people would grow in the society where they will be extremely overloaded with those digital screens all the time, right? So to them, like what's going to be like the super, like the natural, like very natural type of scenes. So we were like talking a lot about those things, and I think you could say something about that.
그러니까 제가 만들어낸 어떤 이미지들이 그렇게 자연스럽지 않다라고 인식이 되잖아요. 왜냐면 이것은 저희가 밖에 나가면 볼 수 있는 자연과 완전히 동일하지 않기 때문에. 그런데 만약에 자연이라고 생각했을 때, 그러니까 정말로 그 생태계의 자연이 있을 수 있고 우리가 이야기하는 자연스럽다의 자연이 있을 수 있잖아요. 그런데 항상 자연이 자연스러워지는 건 그 자연을 100% 모방했을 때가 아닐 수도 있겠다라는 생각을 했고, 그리고 뭐 예를 들면은 그러니까 자크 오몽의 멈추지 않는 눈이라는 책을 보면은 18세기, 19세기 때부터 어떤 자연을 가지고 엄청나게 많은 회화들이 만들어졌는데 우리는 그 회화들을 볼 때 이건 정말 자연을 이 사람이 묘사한 그림이구나라고 보지 않고 이때 당시에 자연은 어땠는지 아니면 그걸 즐긴 사람은 어땠는지 하면서 그 자연조차도 되게 텍스트처럼 그러니까 해석하고 받아들여야 하는 그런 뭔가 장치들로서 미술사에서 인식이 되었단 말이에요. 근데 그런 어떤 일련의 흐름들을 생각해 봤을 때 이 자연이라는 것 자체가 하나의 뭐랄까 있는 그대로 받아들여지지 않고 어떤 이런 픽셀들의 집합 같은 것들을 통해서 미래에는 이런 것들이 좀 오히려 더 자연스러운 것이 될 수도 있겠다. 그러니까 100% 모방하는 것이 아니라 그 자체로 좀 느낄 수 있게끔. 그러니까 그 과거의 회화 전유 방식과는 좀 다르게 미래는 이런 식으로 또 전유가 될 수 있겠다라는 어떤 하나의 가능성을 담고 싶어서 이런 식으로 좀 픽셀에 기반해서 만들었습니다. 제가 speculative 디자인이라는 어떤 학문을 알게 된 거는 사실 2023년쯤이고 제대로 된 책을 읽었던 건 작년쯤이에요. 근데 그러니까 이 책을 읽고 뭐 이번 학기에 이런 어떤 프로젝트를 수행하면서 느꼈던 게 과연 이 상상력에 기반한 이 디자인이 어떤 영향력을 미칠 수 있을까라는 생각을 했을 때 이게 정말 효과적이 될 수 있을까? 라는 생각을 많이 한단 말이에요. 그래서 선생님께서, 그러니까 사변적 디자이너이신 선생님께서 보시기에 이 학문의 어떤 효용? 그러니까 모든 학문이 효용이 있어야 할 필요는 없지만, 그리고 전 당연히 그렇지 않다고 생각하지만, 그러니까 이 학문이 어떤 가지는 어떤 미래적 가치가 어떤 거라고 생각하시는지가 계속 좀 궁금했습니다. 그러니까 뭘 바꿀 수 있을지?
사실 저희는 like we never really expect to change the world. Like the question was like, what do you think speculative design can change? Like how do you think the speculative design term can shape the world? But I don't like speculative designs. We never really intend to change the world or shape the world in a certain way. that's why our design project is always has the open ending. So we really throw questions, and we particularly like research about particular like questions and like the social problems. That's it, you know. It's all about the audiences who gets to think about the answers to that, and we just want to create some provocative image or aesthetic at the end, so that people would still keep those images within their brain, like within their head, and they could constantly ask those questions, you know. But over ages, their thoughts or their idea could change as they get aged or as the world gets shaped in different shapes. But I think if the image is still kept in their mind, then I think that's gonna be the power of the design, where people could constantly just keep asking them of the particular, or like changed questions at least about a certain issue, I would say. Like if I have to add like one more thing, I feel like speculative design, like because we are exposed to like way too many numbers of images these days, that I think the roles of designers is to really create something visually attractive or almost seductive, that that you can really not get avoid from it. Like, you know, you always have to like keep it in your brain, and I think that's the really important role of designers, and that's gonna be even more important in the future. That even though we have like a very core, like that was like what we were talking all the time, like even though we have like a very good research, if we do not have like a very attractive aesthetic as a project, then the research would completely be forgotten between the audiences. Like, who would actually really want to remember it if the aesthetic has completely failed to be loved by the audiences, well, in a sense, or not loved. I cannot really find the word, but like, yeah. So I think even though we are not really working in speculative design, I think that would be the main roles for designers from now on. And anyways, thank you so much for coming in and listening to us. And we have like a little session to mingle, so please stay a little late and have question, like share questions and have great time. Thank you so much for coming in. Thank you.